Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2056. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in Los Angeles, California. I think it's the car capital of the world, with a very special guest by the name of Ryan Fisher. Ryan, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have any gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll have some fun. Now, before I give you a proper introduction, what's one little thing that maybe people don't know about you, Ryan?
Well, probably one thing is that my motivating factor to go to law school was my ability to talk my way out of speeding tickets and legal trouble from a young age. So that's something, that's my definition of that. So.
Okay, well, now you've opened your up because all the listeners have their ears very in tune going, okay, how do I get myself out of a speeding ticket? So if I was going to ask you that question, maybe give us 3 quick tips on the right way to handle that situation when the blue lights come on and the window goes down.
I would say number 1, try to realize what they saw or did not see. 2, when they walk up to your window, that's your time. If you give them your driver's license and your registration and they walk away, most of the time you gave up all chance right there.
Okay.
And number 3 is if it's a motorcycle cop, your luck got reduced significantly.
Yeah.
So what I've learned is motorcycle cops, to be a motorcycle cop is a privilege, right? And so they have to maintain, their efficacy and issue a lot of tickets and do a lot of enforcement. And so your chance of getting away with something is probably reduced. So.
I would think so. And I guess I'll add a 4th. Don't ever try to outrun a cop. You'll lose, right?
No comment.
Okay. Oh, okay. We're not going to go there. We'll both get in trouble with that answer, I think. So, yeah. I think I've watched too many bad endings on videos, on YouTube of people that try to do that. So, and I've got friends that are police, just be nice. Just be polite. Don't be rude. That doesn't help at all.
Right. And that's I think, a big part of it, too, is, people get very defensive and usually, you get more bees with honey than vinegar, right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
Oftentimes, acknowledging the situation and being friendly and sometimes just fessing up right away is the easiest way to try to move things along in a positive way. When people get very defensive, it's a problem.
Yeah, especially if you're going too fast, if that's the case. A couple of times I've just gone, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention on my apologies. And they've gone, okay, well, slow down. All right. Yes, sir.
Right.
Goodbye. So, yeah. So that's the Mark Green legal advice, which is probably typically worthless because I'm not an attorney. So yeah, listen to Ryan. He can be a lot more help. Well, let me give you a proper introduction. Ryan Fisher is an attorney, as we said, financial advisor and entrepreneur in the automotive world. He's the co-founder of Shift Sector, and that's spelled Shift-S3 CTOR. We'll talk about that later. An automotive racing event company best known for hosting half-mile racing events taking place on airport runways, not city streets. Ryan started Shift Sector during his first semester of law school as a fun passion project, and it quickly grew into something much, much larger. Due to its early success, Ryan was able to use his automotive side business and the relationships within it to start his own law practice immediately out of law school, allowing him to grow a professional career while continuing a side hustle fueled by automotive passion. Very well said. We'll be back in just a minute, but first a word from our valued sponsor, so give them a little time, and we'll be right back. And keep your seatbelt on and your hands on the wheel. See you in a minute. Covercraft has the most complete line of custom seat covers available. Choose between the Polycotton Seat Savers, Endura Precision Fit custom seat covers, Leatherette Precision Fit custom seat covers, and their durable Carhartt seat covers. They're all easy to install and remove. And guess what? They're machine washable too. Easy cleanup to make them look brand new. No more worries about the kids spilling on your seats or your pets damaging your expensive upholstery or leather. Covercraft's quality seat covers protect from damaging pet claws, pet fur, hair, mud, moisture, food, drink spills, drool from permanently damaging your vehicle's fine surfaces. Headrest and armrest covers and color options are also available on many of the styles. And I've got a great offer for you. If you use the code YEAH21, YEAH21 at covercraft.com, they'll give you 10% off plus free shipping. That's right, 10% off and free shipping with the code YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. Visit covercraft.com today. Last year, I changed my collector car coverage to American Collectors Insurance. That's who now protects my Porsche Turbo, the one I call my Orange Crush. But did you know they also insure your valuable collections of automobilia and other collectibles? If you're like me, you've invested in a lot of cool collectibles over the years. Those items are valuable. And if you were to lose them in a theft or a fire, well, try to get your normal homeowner's insurance to pay you what they're worth. Good luck with that. American Collectors Insurance provides you with assurance and confidence that your collectibles are fully covered. They insure a lot of items, including automobilia, wine, baseball cards, books, figurines, die-cast models, model trains, glassware, sports memorabilia, toys, and a whole lot more. American Collectors Insurance, they've been protecting us enthusiasts since 1976. They provide you with an agreed value insurance policy backed by a long history of taking care of their clients. Give them a call today for your personal agreed value quote at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of mine, Mark Rains here at Cars Yeah, American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. Automotive enthusiasts just like you and me. That's American Collectors Insurance. So Ryan, we're back. So I want to dive a little deeper into the world of what you're doing here with Shift Sector, because it's interesting. You went down this path of being a lawyer, an attorney, and hopefully helping some people get out of trouble that maybe did some things they shouldn't have done, or maybe they didn't. We'll leave it at that. But then you got into this Shift Sector deal. So how did this all come about?
So it's ironic that, what we provide is a safe, controlled place to essentially race your car and test its limits, but it all started from a bunch of street racers.
Yeah.
So back when I was a teenager, cars were always my life and my passion and what I tried to, spend every dollar on. And, we'll get into my path of cars, but long story short, when I was young, I always had cars that were probably faster than I should have had. And mostly of my own doing. And because of that, I befriended and got connected with a lot of older guys with fast cars. When I was 17, I had a C5 Corvette.
Whoa, at 17?
Yeah. So long story short, I guess we'll just go through the history. So, when I was young, I've always been obsessed with cars and getting my license and everything surrounding automotive. And, my dad, who was a financial advisor who's been the last 50 years, he's always plucked my mind open to investing your money, having it work for you from a very, very young age. Mm-hmm. And when I was young, I worked out a deal with my parents where I said, listen, I don't need the latest go-karts and skateboards and PlayStations and TVs. I was like, just put money in my car account that I'm trying to invest so I have a cool car when I'm older. Things like that just over time kind of started to build. And then when I finally turned 16, I, was driving my dad's older Chevy Tahoe around until I could kind of come up with the funds for a first car. My parents basically said, hey, we'll split it with you. What you've saved up, we'll match it and we'll try to find something. And then this is probably 2004, something like that, 2003. I saved up about 10 grand,
Wow.
and they were like, okay, well, so you can have about 10, here's another 10 grand. You got to go find something. And I found a B5 Audi S4. I don't know if you remember the
Very
twin
much.
turbo all-wheel drive.
Yeah. Cool
So
car.
at the time, most people, like who were kind of looking in that space where, I had kids in high school who had WRXs and different things like that. And I was like, I don't want that. I want something different. There was something about the B5 S4 I thought was very understated and interesting. And so I searched on Auto Trader. I found a car just under 20,000 and drove that for, a year. And during high school, I was actually working as a valet at a hotel. And so every paycheck, I'm just shoving it into my pocket and trying to say, okay, I'm going to mod the car and do all these things. And of course, as a car guy, your attention span for cars is very short. And so I started saying, oh, well, I bought this car for, 18, 19, and, I've saved up a couple thousand more. Like, oh, what could we do? What else is out there? And I got set on, at the time, a brand new '05 Mustang GT. I don't know why I was in this Mustang phase, and I was like, oh, I'm going to throw nitrous at it and do all these things. And I went to the Ford dealership to look at one, and they had a yellow C5 Z06 Corvette sitting there for like $26,500 or something. And I'm like, that's not that seems very cheap for that car. And I started researching kind of like the C5s and C5 Z06s and realizing that these cars that in 2000 and 2001 were $60,000 cars are now significantly less. And so kind of the same deal. I started hunting and searching and looking on Craigslist and going through all these things. And I found a car that a guy had to get rid of. And I ended up picking up, I see it silver C5 Z06 for like $22,000. And, basically just sold my Audi and got this Corvette. And of course, I'm now like a senior in high school and I'm driving this car and everyone, the default is everyone, look at this rich kid with his brand new $80,000 Corvette and, not obviously understanding what it is and the value of what it really is. And that this wasn't just some blind purchase. But I didn't care. I said, listen, I know what this is. I know what it's worth. I know, the Volkswagen Jetta that your dad bought you brand new is actually probably more expensive than this car. But that's fine. You could think it's way more expensive. And anywho, so then of course that was never enough. So I started hunting on the forums and Corvette forum, and I found a used P1 Pro Charger kit for sale that someone had sold. Meanwhile, I'm still working as a valet and, getting all this tip money and trying to, save it up to do more things. To make my short story long, at this point, I had a Pro Charged C5 Z06 when I was pretty young. And so it was, about a 500 wheel horsepower, 3,100 pound Corvette. So I would go to Cars and Coffees and I started meeting some of these guys that, invited me into groups that say, hey, we're going to meet up on Saturday mornings. We meet up around 4:30 in the morning on the toll roads in Irvine. And we just do some races and, we have a good time. And 17-year-old me who thought I was the fastest, car around got humbled real quick by people that actually had fast cars. And that's a whole nother world. But that group of people is actually who I became close with. And my business partner, Jason, who I started everything with, we met through those early morning meetups when he had a 911 turbo and I had my Corvette and we were, doing street races with this big group of guys. And so we just said, hey, we should do something with it. We should find a better place to do this and a safer place to do this. And how cool would it be if we could just have them all there on one day and have one crazy event? And that's kind of what got the wheels turning real early, but it all stemmed from that stuff. Yeah.
Well, with what you guys do at Shift Sector, so how does this all work? Do you have a website where people go and sign up and then you rent or lease a space where people can go? And like you said, to get off public roads and get into a safer environment definitely is where you want to be. So is that how this works? And is it in the Los Angeles area where you live?
So essentially, kind of how it started was we actually rented Willow Springs Raceway and decided to use the front straightaway to roll race on, which no one had done before.
Okay.
And then after that, cars were so fast that we said we need something with more stretch of road or stretch of tarmac. And that's what led us to airports. And then we started going down that road. And back in 2011 was our first event. And now it's obviously snowballed. And so now we have a set season. Different years potentially have certain venues pop up or change because, these facilities might have construction or that we might find a new location and things like that. But essentially you go to our website, which is airstripattack.co, and you can see the events, register for the events. And then, we announce them essentially as soon as we book it for the prior season. And you can essentially see, okay, here are the event dates. You can sign up for one event. You can sign up for all events. And right now, our current season, we just had our first event, which was in South Texas. We have an Indiana event, a Kansas event, and then a North Texas event. For many years, I've had a California event in Central California, but that venue right now is repaving their runways, and so that event's on hold. But so right now we have Texas, Kansas, Indiana, and we have a couple other ones we're working on to hopefully bring on for next year.
Wow. So this thing is really, really blown up and expanded nationwide. Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, we've done events. We have had some longstanding events in Colorado and Oregon and some other states as well that we've kind of been at the mercy of COVID and events and facilities and the FAA. And so there's a lot of politics and moving pieces that allow us to have these events and secure them. And sometimes it's not the same as it was the year before. And that's a constant thing we are faced with and have to pivot around.
Wow. Well, really impressive how you've grown this thing from wanting to have fun with cars into providing a venue for people to have a somewhat, very much safer, obviously, than road racing and street stuff, to go out and have fun and be around other people and see what their cars can do and all that. So that is really cool. Is there a driving inspiration or a mentor, someone who's been influential in your life that carried you on to this type of a business from law to this?
I know. And actually, it was actually from this to law in a way, because we had events up and running and I was essentially legal counsel for my racing business while I was in law school, still learning and still, building my brain around that. But as far as kind of, a mentorship, anything like that, not specific to the automotive world, really. I mean, cars have always been my passion, which is, trickled down likely from one of my grandfathers was super into cars. He passed away when I was pretty young. But as far as a mentor, in business, my father has always been one who's opened my eyes to opportunity and, trying to follow your passions and do something with, your time. And for me, that's always kind of sat with me. And even though my father isn't a big car person or has any racing or event experience, but, I've always kind of had that mindset of, looking for opportunity and look where you're spending your time and how you're spending your time. And what I realized was in my off time, what was I doing? I was watching videos of cars racing and I was going to car events and I was looking on, car forums on how I could make my cars faster. And so it kind of segued into, what can I do with this, right? I'm spending time looking at car stuff and doing this stuff anyways. Maybe we can focus this to building something or doing something. And it didn't really, it was never, I'm going to go build a business. It was never that at all. It was more of just, I'm doing this anyways. What can we do with this?
Yeah, and surround yourself with like-minded people. I think it's a tremendous concept and idea, really, really fun, and it's a great example of how that entrepreneurial mind that your father had and that opportunistic mind that he had really trickled down to your brain and said, I'm already having fun doing this. Why don't I create a little business around it? And boom, it grew and grew, and now it's not so little. So this is really, really fun. Yeah. We're going to take a short break and thank our sponsors. And when we come back, I want to talk about perhaps a big challenge, obstacle. I ask all my guests this, get some interesting responses, so keep that in mind, and we'll be right back. You listeners know that I'm a huge car care fanatic, and my friends at AutoGeek created their Wolfgang Deep Gloss Paint Sealant for perfectionists like you and me. Wolfgang, a deep gloss paint sealant, is designed to provide long-lasting protection and a glossy, slick finish that, well, it's unmatched. The use of polymer technology ensures your paint is protected from environmental contaminants, those damaging UV rays, and lasts up to 3 months long. By providing the glossy look of carnauba wax with the longevity of a synthetic formula, Wolfgang, a deep gloss paint sealant, is the best of both worlds. Go to autogeek.net to get yours for the best product selection on the internet today, along with their skilled technical support. Autogeek.net is where I go for all my detailing needs. That's autogeek.net. I've discovered Linkage. It's a new quarterly publication and website that covers the automotive market, driving, restoring, collecting, and discovering your passion for motor vehicles. Linkage is about experiences, opinions, and values. Linkage is an actual informed, reasoned opinion based on first-hand experiences. A talented Linkage team covers the automotive world, the people who share your passion and mine, smart, considered, rational, and experienced opinions, ones you can learn from and grow. That includes our passion that drives auctions and the collector car market. So come with me and join us on this journey. And be sure to use the code CARSYEAH when you subscribe, and they'll give you $10 off. Boom! Linkage, geared for the automotive life. Subscribe today at linkagemag.com. 20, 50, or 100 years from now, will there be a workforce to care for the collector vehicles we love? With auto shop programs disappearing across the country, it's a question we enthusiasts have to ask. That's why I support the RPM Foundation, which exists to ensure that the critical skills necessary to preserve and restore these vehicles aren't lost to time. One of the many ways RPM, which is short for Restoration, Preservation, and Mentorship, is accomplishing this goal is through workforce development initiatives. The RPM apprenticeship program enables the next generation of artisans to earn a living while they learn the craft of restoring and preserving these vehicles directly from industry professionals. The Endangered Skills Program documents the process of masters training future craftspeople on a variety of critical skills in danger of being lost forever. For more information on how the RPM Foundation is driving the future of the collector vehicle skills trade, visit RPM Foundation today. They're one of the charities of choice here on Cars Yeah. So let's talk about this, Ryan. Big challenge, big failure, something that you've come up against, but more important, what was that really valuable learning lesson that it taught you?
Yeah, I think, being not only in the events business, but creating events that have really never been built before. So, our creation in a sense of half-mile racing was new. It was just something that we kind of decided on that seemed to simulate what we were doing on the street. Because of that, there's no playbook, right? So for us, we had to figure out, how do we rent these airports? How do we negotiate with them? What do we have to deal with the FAA, with insurance, with all these things who have never heard or seen or done anything about what we're doing.
You want to do what with my airport? Huh?
And that was its own learning process and learning curve, and still is constantly moving. But, one of our big obstacles is, kind of outside influence on these airport facilities, because you have the cities, you have tenants in the hangars that see you as, these guys are coming onto our property. You have the FAA who governs these airports. So there's been honestly a handful of moments where we've had to dig our heels in and learn and fix a problem that we didn't even anticipate. But I would say one of the big ones, as an example, was, we've been hosting our event in Central California in the city of Coalinga at their airport since 2012 is when we started doing events at that location. And we would do 2 to 3 events a year there. And this is a city with a population of 10,000 who really didn't really have much going on there. It's very agriculture. And, for us, we started hosting these events and not only bringing revenue to the city, but we would incorporate the high school volunteer organizations so that they could raise revenue by helping manage our parking and doing things at the event that then would go into their budgets for their proms and their different things and activities. Long story short, the event started as, hey, we just want to rent the facility and do our own thing, and it's just our own private thing. Then we started allowing spectators. Then we started incorporating local businesses. Then we started, doing a lot more with the community. And several years ago, it was probably 2018 or so, before one of our events, essentially, the FAA sent a letter and said, hey, we're not in support of you doing this event anymore, and so you can't proceed with this.
Oh.
No, it's no reason why, just basically said, sorry, you guys can't do this anymore. And our response is, we looked at this and we said, okay, well, why? So essentially, they kind of gave us the cold shoulder. And, I think there was one complaint by somebody who had no affiliation with the airport or the event, and that we thought it might have been a competitor or someone trying to rain on the parade a little bit. But what we had to do is say, okay, well, this is, to be honest, and at the time was our most frequent event. It was our most profitable event. It's something we'd had built over years and years and years, and was probably 50 to 60% of our revenue.
Ooh.
And something that we were contributing to the community. And the city was generating a lot of tourism. They're generating money. They're generating good press. There's so many positive things about this. And so what we had to do is build a case. We had to basically make the FAA aware, saying, hey, look, you need to realize what you're shutting down. This isn't just some random thing that happens every once in a while. We ran all the financials and we're like, this city brings in $250,000 every weekend we have an event.
Wow,
between
that's
our
huge.
use of the facilities, hotel rooms booked, restaurants, fuel, all these things. You have thousands of people coming into town for one weekend that wouldn't normally be there, especially on an airport that gets very low use. So we had the mayor sign off, the city manager write letters, we had local businesses write letters, the hotel that we book out all 85 rooms every weekend. Management and the owners of the hotel wrote letters, and we basically put this big submission together and sent it back to them and said, you need to realize what you're shutting down. Look at all of this. And then they basically turned around and said, okay, fine, you can keep doing it.
Well, I think you probably hit the nail on the head, but probably one little person who didn't like something that happened and made a big deal out of this. And some bureaucrat sitting at her desk goes, why are we driving race cars on an airport? That doesn't make sense. Let's just nix this. Next. And they had no idea. You said the right words. You had to build a case. You had to help them understand the value. And I think once you start talking to bureaucrats about raising tax dollars and revenue for businesses, their ears perk up really fast.
Right. And that's the thing too, right? It's like the benefits outweighing the cons here, right? So to me, it's like, yes, of course there's risk and there's liability, but nothing has triggered that. Nothing has happened.
No.
We have safety protocol. We run a really tight ship. And for it to just, be taken away just because, like you said, someone who's, just works for the government, who just sees this and says, it's a lot easier for me to say no than to look into this further.
Well, the great lesson I heard here, Ryan, is don't give up, is, create a great case. And also the other great thing I heard you say was create a venue that adds value to other people, not just lines your pockets, but it adds value to the community, to other people, bringing schools in, creating tax dollars. I mean, all these different pieces. I've had so many people on the show that run Concours events and events, and these bring in huge amounts of dollars for areas. They raise money for charities, for groups, and so forth. And that's what a lot of people don't realize with car events. And they almost all do that. So I think it's great what you created there. Now, I always ask my guests about a special vehicle story. You kind of already shared that at the beginning with that Corvette that you talked about. I'm still trying to imagine what your insurance was like at that age driving a car like that. But maybe that's another question for another day. But yeah, is there another vehicle that's been really special for you that you'd like to share a story about that ride?
Yeah. I mean, I've had like I said, a very short attention span for cars for many years. And, I've always tended to lean towards American muscle. I've had Audis and I've had Porsches and I've had things, but that C5 Corvette I had that I daily drove to school when I went to UC Santa Barbara and would drive back and forth from Orange County to Santa Barbara was definitely, I think, a pivotal time for me. But my dream car was always the Ford GT. The 0506 Ford GT to me was always the dream car, because I remember when that car came out in 2005 and going to the local Ford dealership and seeing this thing and hearing people murmur, "Oh, who's going to pay $140,000 for a Ford?"
Yeah, now they're $500,000.
And, I know, and that was just something I always kind of lusted over and just thought was there's just something so cool about that car. And then learning the history with Le Mans and the original Ford GT, and obviously now Ford versus Ferrari, everyone now knows that story, which has been a story for, since then, but most people didn't know that that's what happened and the history behind it. And so my goal, I set this goal very young, was like, just really want to get a Ford GT. That is the ultimate American muscle, iconic car to me.
Yeah.
So that was always the goal. And, I was building my career and, racing and doing these events. And I learned to kind of flip cars, and I started buying and selling cars. I would find something that seemed undervalued, drive for a while, sell it, make a couple bucks, roll that into the next one. And I've kind of ping-ponged my way over the years into nicer and nicer cars. And I watched the values on the Ford GTs run up and then kind of soften. And this is probably 2018. I remember when there were, black, because I always wanted a black no stripe car. There was something so sinister about an all black Ford GT with no stripes, just blacked out. It was just so mean. I remember seeing videos of them, and I was like, oh my God, that is the coolest car in the world. And it became this like motivation for me, like to get that car. And as I watched the values on it, I'm like, it's not only a car, but it's also an investment. And up until recently, that was the explanation for most cars. Most cars were depreciating assets. You would never put your money in a car as an investment, ever.
Right. Yeah.
Now, if you're anywhere in the car world or automotive world, that boy has that changed.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And so I followed the market on these cars for a long time. And, I remember watching them in 2018 start to go down. I remember seeing cars they get listed at lower and lower and lower prices, and still, way more expensive than they were new, but the gap was shrinking. And so I said, you know what, if I can move some money around, if I can sell some cars, if I can finance in the right way, I might be able to scrounge to get one of these. And if I do, I should be okay. Maybe it won't go up in value, but it probably won't go down in value. So, if I can just get into one, it might be okay.
Yeah.
So I got on that train and I started hunting and talking with people I knew and brokers. And, after a bunch of research, I found a car at a dealership in Miami. And at the time I had a 911 GT3, 991 generation that I was trying to sell to get into that car. And long story short, I couldn't get rid of it, because it was a paint to sample, signal green, really special car. And at the time I couldn't get rid of it. Now, that car, the same car is probably worth $50,000 more than what I sold it for. But anyways, I was actually trying to sell it to get into another car I found, another black no stripe GT I found at a dealership, and actually this was in New York. And I couldn't sell the GT3 to get into it. And then another car popped up on eBay at a dealership in Miami. And I called the dealership in Miami and I said, I don't even want to grind you on the price. I think it's priced very well, but can you take my Porsche in on trade? And they kind of, were like, let's look at the numbers. Let's, look at it. And they said, okay, we can do something here. So it took a month just between the time we agreed on the deal, because they're like, well, we want you to send your car here first so we can see it and do everything before then we package up the other car and send that back to you. So it ended up taking a couple months, or like a little over a month, to do this deal with all these moving parts. And it all ended up working out. And then I got the car. I got the dream car.
Very cool.
So to me now, and that car now is like my child. And, and of course, having watched the value since then, right, it's probably worth almost twice as much as what I paid for it. And I didn't think it would do anything like that, right?
But none of us thought that the market would do what it's doing right now. I scratch my head at what's going on in the market right now. I got to ask you the question, since you're in this world of buying and selling, what is going on? Like, why are what's going on with the money factor? I know there's a lot of money flying around out there.
Yeah, and I'm not a dealer. Mine is just passion buying and selling. Try to watch the market, see what cars are trading for now. And I know you've had a lot of guests that, just deal in this, and this is their life. And I know you've had some guests on from Bring a Trailer and things like that. And I genuinely feel like Bring a Trailer now has become this de facto place to look at comps that any single person can go and look at. Before, you would need a dealer license to look at the Manheim numbers and, try to see what cars are really selling for. And now there's this transparency of seeing what some of these cars are going for. So anyone can be like, oh, well, I want to buy this car. Let's go look on Bring a Trailer. Let's see what some of them have sold for. And you can start to piece together the values and, put yourself in a position there. But, back to your question of what's going on, I think it's a combination of during COVID, people realized that they couldn't do all the things they wanted to do. They couldn't travel. They couldn't spend money on all these things. And so they had a surplus of money sitting around. Plus, you have people getting stimulus money. You have businesses getting forgivable loans, that they may or not even need, but they're being offered. And even if it wasn't forgivable, it's at a 1% interest rate. You could get an economic impact disaster loan at a 1% interest rate, which is, unheard of. Yep. So I think a combination of that stuff, and then also spurred, I think, some panic buying, because there's certain cars that just started appreciating so fast. And I think people were like, oh, well, I've always wanted that. I need to get it because it's going to be too expensive.
No,
and it's just,
yeah.
I think that's a part of it, but I also think there's a whole nother layer of it that I don't even understand.
It's a big crystal ball. And well, I'm glad you got it when you did, because you're right. Now, these cars have become unobtainium for most folks, at least for me. And you just kind of shake your head and go, wow, I'm never going to be able to get one of those now because it's just gone crazy. So it's good that you're out there shopping. That was the lesson learned there, is if you can do it, because you might not be able to. And we've seen these curves go down. We've seen dips. Saw it in the Porsche market happen in 2014-15, where things went down like, oh, shoot, I blew it. I should have sold it. But of course, now that market is insane. So it's
out of control.
It's a crazy world. How about a great reading? Is there a great book that you'd like to share with us, either car or business book, since you're a business person?
I think actually it's funny. Tony Watley, who was on your show a while back, who's a friend of mine. So his book, Side Hustle Millionaire. Yep. And I'm sure it's been suggested before, is a really great book. It really is. Yeah. And, I obviously wear a couple different hats, but on the legal side of things, what I primarily do is help people start businesses. I do a lot of entity formation and contracts and business affairs and things like that. And, because I think it's a very positive thing. And I think people become very overwhelmed or think there's so much risk or so much time to start something. And the reality of it is not, there's not. And then of course it depends what it is. If you want to go open a brick and mortar location of something, there's a lot of cost involved. But nowadays, podcasts, like our event business, like we just build it around one event and we got the money first. We said, this is what we're trying to do. Here's the registration fee. Mm-hmm. And most of the bills weren't due until after the event, right? And there was some risk there. But I just think in the age we're in, there's so many opportunities to be able to start something small and see how it goes before, having to dump your life savings into it or quit your day job. And I think Tony really nails it on the head there, because he was a prime example of that.
Really, really so. It's a great book. I've gotten a copy. In fact, he's doing right now a seminar where he's going to invite us 50 people to come down to Mexico. They're going to spend like a 4 or 5 day event down there where it's a combination of enjoying a resort, but also he's got speakers there. Tony's done a great job. So Side Hustle Millionaire. In fact, I've shared his book with several people, bought extra copies and so forth. So check it out. I'll put a list of this book, a link to it on Ryan's show notes page on the Cars Yeah website so you can check it out. Very, very cool. Oh, last question before I let you go here today is I always offer to pay to take somebody on the ultimate drive, meaning you can pick any car, you can be driving anywhere, and you can be with anybody, living or deceased. Now, you've already got your ultimate car, but maybe there's something else that you want to reach even higher. Not sure how you could go higher than a Ford GT. They're so cool. So, I've driven those cars. I've driven those, and I've driven one on the track, and it's a very sweet car. Amazing. But you better be careful because that thing will bite you. It's got no traction control, so be careful with the right foot and the brake as well. So what does the ultimate drive look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one that I put some time into thinking about because, there's so many different ways to go with it. And for me, I'm not one to really lean on celebrities or be starstruck or anything like that. And I think for me, I'm a believer in more like personal connection and, to spend time with people that you maybe didn't get the opportunity to spend time with or as much time with. And I think, if it were me, both of my grandfathers on both my parents' sides, passed away when I was young. And on my mom's side, he was a big car guy. And there's pictures of me standing on, like a 70s Rolls Royce bench seat when I'm like 2 years old, kind of bouncing around. And clearly I was getting into that at such a young age. And so if it were up to me, I would probably do a McLaren F1. And the reason being is because it's a 3-seater.
You could put a grandpa on each side. That's a great idea.
So I'd be able to have both my grandfathers on each side.
Wow.
And to me, that is an unobtainable car.
Well, of course. Yeah. They talk about another car that was expensive to begin with, but they couldn't even really sell them at first. And now they become the new generation GTO. So, yeah. Right.
And so to me, I would have a McLaren F1 with both of my grandfathers and a nice stretch, from PCH out in Malibu to Ventura. That's something because that's a stretch that I do enjoy. And so that I think would be the ultimate drive. And I mean, maybe if Carroll Shelby could squeeze in there too, that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be a tight fit.
But that would probably be mine.
Maybe pick him up on the way back. Yeah, that's a pretty cool thought, and obviously an insane car. So I love it. You've taken us on a wild ride today. I kind of thought that would happen with you, Ryan. Before I let you go, could you share maybe a success quote or some words of inspiration for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I think just like you said, you just do it. I think a lot of people hesitate and are afraid to break off on their own or try something new or follow something that they're passionate about. And the truth is, if you love what you do, then you won't work a day in your life, right? Yeah. And so, I really on a daily basis try to push people to come up with a plan. If you want to be your own boss, you want to follow your passion and maybe find a way to, generate income from it and enjoy it, even if it just pays for your hobby, there's pride in. So, I always try to push people on trying it.
Yeah, just give it a try.
Take steps to do it.
Yeah, we've never lived, I think, in a time ever in the history of mankind that there aren't so many opportunities to do these kind of things. And you look at all the different ways people have figured out ways to create and generate business and income doing what they love, and it just keeps growing and growing. So there you go. Ryan's figured it out. I've figured it out. A whole lot of other people have figured it out as well. How can people learn more about Shift Sector?
So probably the easiest way is, follow us on social media at Shift Sector, all one word, but the E is a 3. Airspectac.co has our schedule and everything. My partner, Jason Huang, he actually has really taken the reins last year and this year, and he basically handles all the day-to-day now. And so he answers every call, any email that comes through, whether it's questions about the events or racing or sponsoring. So he's really, really killed it in running with things. So like I said, social media or our website, we can always get in touch with us.
I'll put links to those on Ryan's show notes page. And I want to do a shout out thank you to a past Cars Yeah guest, a mutual friend of ours, Roy Rath, for introducing me to Ryan. No doubt he's the guy that builds the monster killer cars. So Roy, thank you very much. Ryan, hey, this is an awesome story. Love what you're doing. Really, really cool. I want to thank you for sharing your experience with us today. Until you and I talk again, I usually say we'll see you down the road, but maybe we'll see you at a racetrack or at an airstrip going real fast. Sounds
good to me.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.